record to cloud. Cool, welcome everybody. So today we will be doing a playtest of The Outsiders. Oopsie. The Outsiders is a game written by Jay Grantz. She's my partner, and this will be our second online playtest, and we've also playtested a couple times in Meet Space. The way you're going to learn to play the game is kind of like, because this is kind of like a Descended from the Queen game, we're going to learn it by reading the cards. I think most of it's pretty self-explanatory. The one thing we will need to do, and maybe I will do this right now on the slide here, is I'm going to, in the top left corner here, oops, let's see what works there. I'm going to write our turn order since we don't have like a clockwise. And so I'm just looking at my screens here. So I'm going to put myself, Tomes, Sarah, Ben, Ryan, Kurt, and let's see. So how do I make you bold and stuff? I don't know. You're not letting me change the text style. Oh, there, format. Okay, that's better. Let's make you nice and dark. Does everybody see those words up there, the top left? Okay, and I don't think they shouldn't, here, select. They shouldn't get in our way, I don't think. All right, cool. One other thing. Oh, before we start, we should introduce ourselves. So I will go through and we'll do it in this order. Hi, my name is Tomer or Tomes. You can use he, him pronouns for me, and that's it. And I am related to the person who made this game.
Sarah, she, her. Hi.
Did I break my audio? Is it still working? Okay,
Still working.
My name is Ben, and I use he, him pronouns.
I'm Ryan, and I use he, him pronouns.
Hi, I'm Kurt. I use he, him.
Awesome. And let's go ahead and get started. I have to turn off annotate there. To start gameplay, go around the table clockwise and take turns reading the instruction cards aloud.
This is me or you?
That's you.
Okay. The Outsiders is a collaborative story game. As players, you will take on a duo role. You will play members of an outsider group who seek to be part of a larger, more established community.
Additionally, you will inhabit the role of the council, who must vote to either accept or reject the outsiders. As the council, you will not develop specific personalities. Instead, you will merely express the thoughts and opinions of the community at large.
Oops. Sorry about that.
Answer the following questions together.
And Ryan, you'll get the next one too.
Heck, I was going to say I got the easy one. What group are we trying to join? A superhero team, a walled society, a sorority/fraternity, the assassin fighting club, a school for elite animal companions, blank, a cult secret society, a guild, a mech force, a magical school.
So we can do any of these. We can create our own. And I recommend, whatever we find most interesting. We were playing this with, everyone knows Noella, and my friend Heavy Metal Jess. And we played this last Thursday or something, but we decided to be a pack of wolves. So we were a couple of wolves who lost our pack, and we were trying to join another wolf pack. Not werewolves, just wolves. And it was fantastic. And to Ben's question of, does the assassin fighting club fight assassins? Are they fighting assassins? Or both? I don't know. We could play to find out. But if there's anything, yeah, like this is a discussion. So like if there's anything that anybody's like, like throw out ideas or anything you've been interested in media-wise, whatever.
I'm down to play a school for elite animal companions. Seems interesting, but anything really. So I'll go with the majority.
A magical school sounds pretty intriguing to me. I kind of like the potential tone of a magic school.
Oh my God, it could be both, right? It's a magic school, but we're the companion, like the familiars who are trying to get into that part of the school.
Trying to get matched with wizards.
What about y'all?
I'm
Sarah,
down
Ryan?
to be a magical animal companion.
Yeah, sounds fun.
All right, could we mash those two up? Yeah. So we are magical animals in some way, or maybe just animals. It's up to us. Trying to get into a magical school, and maybe as familiars, maybe not. We can kind of see how it plays. Cool. Pass this over to Ryan. Oh, sorry, Kurt.
Sorry. Oh,
You're
yeah.
gonna make me read 3 at a time? I thought our rivalry was on pause for this.
That's just cruel, right? I'll save that for Big Bad.
All right. What is the feel of our story? Is it serious? Is it middle of the road, a hybrid of serious and funny? Or is it silly, farcical, whimsical, ridiculous? Use a pencil and choose one of the following. Hang on, let me get a pen.
I'll use this little toothbrush. Mark the screen.
What do you guys want to be? I mean, animals trying to get into a magical school sounds pretty silly.
I feel like middle of the road. Like we don't want to be full silly, I think.
Yeah, I think if we go full silly, it kind of implies that we're kind of going a little bit on that gonzo direction. But even though the premise, I think, Kurt, you're right, the premise is not particularly serious. I kind of like the idea of, like middle of the road, maybe leaning a little bit on the silly side, but that gives us,
Yeah,
what do you
I
guys
love
think?
the idea of playing a
adorable.
silly premise seriously and coming out in the middle.
Cool.
All right,
So we're like
cool.
silly animals, but one wrong step and it's to the glue factory.
The dark silly game. All right, so it sounds like we're all kind of leaning somewhere in that middle ground. I think that's good. Cool. So as the outsiders, why do we want to join the established community? Now, as far as like our personal motivations, like we can all have our own personal motivation. We don't need to answer that right now. But as these outsiders, is there some overwhelming reason why? And there doesn't have to be. Maybe we set it with the premise like, well, we want to just join. We want to become familiars, and the reason for that could be various. But there could also be something else, like, yeah, the forest is on fire, and that's why we're all, or some other big thing is happening. But like, we don't need that either. So unless anybody's got a specific idea, I'll leave it open for a second.
I like the idea of like animal family tradition kind of thing, like a Watership Down type community where every year they pick one and they get to go and join the thing, and if you don't get in, it's like bad for your house or something like that, right? Like it's so like we need to prove that our family is as good as we think it is.
We come from long lines of familiars, and this is you've got to become a doctor or the family will be disappointed forever.
I like that.
Yeah, that sounds good. Okay, cool. So we want to join partly because of there may be some social pressure, but there's some traditional element to this. So, all right, cool. As the established community, what's our motivation to accept new members? So as the magical school, why do we need to accept new members? And again, maybe this is as simple and obvious as, well, of course, wizards need familiars and they can't just go and get like a rando raccoon digging in the trash because they're not smart. You need the one with a sad backstory. Or it could be something else.
I think probably the simple answer makes the most sense. It's just wizards need familiars, right?
Yeah, that sounds good. And as much as there's a tradition of from our families of becoming familiars, there's a tradition of getting familiars from these families, right? Okay. Now I'll pass this on to Sarah.
What is the voting expectation? The council will vote to A, accept one outsider, B, accept one outsider, reject one outsider, or accept all or no outsiders. Choose one of the following.
Yeah, so basically there's 5 of us applying, right? Are they gonna accept one of us? Or are they accepting all of us but one, so they're rejecting one of us? Or are they accepting all or none? What game do we want to play? Is this a competition?
So for this one, I kind of like the idea that there's only 4 wizards. And so all but one of us will be chosen.
Yeah, I kind of like that as well.
That makes the most sense, I think.
Are we all cool playing that game?
I'm totally down for this magic school animal bachelor.
Okay, cool. Let's do that. So we are marking reject one outsider, right? We're accepting everyone except for one. Cool. On to Ben.
Place the X card at the center of the table. If at any point you feel uncomfortable with what is being said or done, please tap on the X card and we will remove that content. The X card can also be used to simply get rid of a card for any reason. If a card is removed this way on your turn, simply draw another card. For more information on the X card, visit http.
We're playing online, so obviously, like in Meat Space, this would be a card on the table, but we're all familiar with the online things. But for those listening to the recording, we can make a symbol, we can mark an X in the chat, we can just say the word, we can say what it is we want to do. Hey, can we please remove that card or whatever? I know we're all old hats at this, but yeah, any of those methods work. This is Ryan's.
How am I supposed to voice the symbol? Okay, place the no card next to the X card. Use the I decline to answer card whenever you, as the player or as your outsider character, prefer not to answer the question.
See, that's why we're playtesting. So we know that this has caused confusion twice. So the I decline to answer card is also a card on the table. And obviously you could just say, I decline to answer that question. Or you can do it in character as well, like in some manner. Does everyone understand the difference between this and the X card? One is like, I'm removing that question from the game. It's as if it wasn't asked. Whereas this one leaves the question on the table, right? Somebody said something. I'm like, I'm dodging the question. I take the 5th, whatever you want to call it. But you're leaving the question in play. You're just not answering it.
This is me now, right?
Yeah.
Short or long game. Shuffle the interview cards. Insert the I motion for a vote card into the middle of the interview card stack. For a long game, place it near the bottom. Place the interview cards face down in the center of your digital interface.
Exactly. And I've already done that. So our cards are shuffled. And cool. One of the complexities of this game, of course, is that you need to have a hand of cards, as we'll see. So this is the I motion for a vote card. So this is one of the cards that's shuffled in the deck. It says, when somebody plays this card, the interview phase is immediately over. Move onto the voting cards. Now, keep in mind that you will have more than just this card in your hand. So just because you pick up this card does not mean the game ends. It's going to be in your hand, and you're going to decide, am I going to play this card to end the game, or am I going to play another question card? And then I pass this over. But before we get there, I'll pass this one on to Sarah.
Council talks amongst themselves prior to questioning the outsiders.
Why do we need new members? We have a great thing going here. We all know the wrong people can bring the morale down. It already took us so much to get this far.
Oops, sorry.
But some of us were outsiders once. Then we became part of this community. Oh my goodness, we have magical animals on the magical animal board. Representation. Now look at us. We've helped make it great. It's our turn to give someone else a chance.
Remember what happened before? Why risk bringing new people in? I mean, there's no way to be sure they're going to get in line with how we do things.
Now, let's keep an open mind and heart. There's no harm in listening to what they have to say. I mean, maybe they can help us with our current problems. We could really use some innovation.
Can we trust them? They seem so different from us. Maybe we're too willing to give these people the benefit of the doubt.
Well, we could use them to do things we don't want to do. Our resources are running low. Perhaps they know something we don't.
It's true that we have no clue if they're going to fit in or not, but I'm hearing some of them have potential. Should we take the chance and find out?
Yes, let's meet these outsiders. It's time.
All right, so again, in Meet Space, each player grabs a name tent. You're gonna write your outsider name and write their pronoun. And you can put other details on there. Like for example, in this game, maybe you could put whatever your animal type thing is, if you want to. What I'm gonna recommend is everyone take a second to think about this and feel free to type it in the chat there. So do your name, pronoun, and if you want optionally any other info. And then just like I annotated our turn order up at the top, I'm gonna annotate on the bottom left, I'll put like a little box on our slide with our character name things in there.
I feel like it's important that we all pick animals, right?
Yes. How how strict? This is a good question. Just like maybe we didn't clarify this in the beginning. We did say animals, and then we said familiars. And I know, like for some of us who've played like those D&D type game, familiars can be like weird other magic-y creatures, like whatever, quasits or whatever. Do we want to stick with like animals? Like that are kind of like traditional animals, or are we open? What do you guys think?
I was totally picturing like small forest animals, but I'm down for whatever the group decides in the spirit of the game.
Well, maybe we can do like a thumb up, thumb down. Who wants to go strict with forest animals? Who doesn't really care? It's good to go either way. And who wants to be able to do like non-forest animals? So 3, 2, 1. Vote. Okay, we're doing forest animals.
I'm the only one that cares. This is going to be the hardest decision I've ever had to make, I think.
Oops. Let's see. Where's that annotate tool? There we go. Nice. And so what I'm going to do as these names are rolling in, I'm going to put them in our turn order. I'll put our name at the end there too. Actually, maybe beginning. That might be simpler. And although this is covering up a little bit of like the slide text here, on most of the slides, it's going to be very much centered and it won't be a problem. Ooh, nice. Oh man, these are some cool characters. And let's see, where's Ryan's? There we go. Trinket. Okay. Did I get this order right? Yes. Okay. I'm going to format this just a little bit. Oops. All right, let me grab this little select tool. All right, can everybody see our characters down there? All right, cool. All right, and maybe what we'll do is let's just do a quick round just to introduce our characters. And I'll start in our order here. So I'll be playing Polly. she's a porcupine.
And I'm playing Noah Underground, honey badger, he, him.
I'm playing Linderleaf Bawksquallow, the turtle, he, him.
I'm sure my name is like a paragraph, but you can call me Trinket, magpie, they, them.
And I'm playing Terminus the Brave, a rabbit who does not know yet.
Nice. All right, let's do this. So whose turn is it? I don't remember.
Worse.
Yes, we, the outsiders, are about to meet the council who will decide our fate. They will ask us a series of questions to gauge and glean whether or not we could be a valuable addition to their society. Our answers, therefore, are a key to determining whether or not we fail or succeed.
We take turns being the active player. Read the active player reference card, then place it at the center of the table.
Active player reference. Number 1, always have 3 interview cards in your hand. Number 2, select an interview card and ask the question to an outsider. Whenever possible, choose a different outsider than the last that answered. Number 3, any players can ask clarifying questions. And number 4, after questions have been answered, pass the remaining cards in your hand to the next active player.
And like I was saying earlier, because you know, we all play a lot of RPGs, and we know cards are a bit of a problem sometimes in you know, online space, depending on what tool you're using. I'm going to be the card maintainer. So what I'm going to do is I will grab the cards, and they're going to look like this. So I'm just going to put an example. Here, I'm gonna choose a not very interesting question that that I think got shuffled late in our deck, or it's non-existent in our deck. And I'm gonna send this to everyone. So you're gonna get a chat that looks like that with 3 lines in it. It'll have a question number and the question. And then you're just gonna tell me which question you're gonna ask. Like, oh, I'm gonna ask question 7, and that way I can put it up on the screen real quick. And then just go ahead and ask your question to whoever you wanna ask. And then whatever cards are left, which you'll know the other 2, I'm gonna pass those and the 3rd one to the next player. So these will be private messages to you in the chat. So everyone's not gonna see all the cards at all the time.
Can you just go over that one more time, just so I'm sure?
And so what's gonna happen is when it's, let's say it's your turn, Ben, right? So I'm going to send you a private message in our chat here, in our Zoom chat, and it'll have a couple of lines in it. It'll say, like, for example, here, Q7, how long have you known the rest of your group? And 2 other questions. And you're just gonna look at those, think for a second, and then choose one that you're gonna ask one of our characters, right, as the council. And when you do that, like, I'm gonna put that question up on the board, so you don't have to worry about that. And then I'm just gonna take the other questions you didn't ask. Those are the other 2 cards in your hand. And because Ryan would be next, I'm gonna send him a private message with those 2 questions and a new one, right? So it's kind of like you're passing the ones you didn't ask to the next player, right?
Got it.
A little bit weird, but because I'm managing it here, like if someone else was running this online, I don't know how they would do it yet. We haven't figured that part out, but cards are cards. And I think it's Ryan's turn.
Continue asking, answering, and Xing questions until I motion for a vote card is played.
Anyone can be the first active player. First active player, address an outsider.
Maybe that's going to be you, Kurt, unless someone volunteers.
Cool. Okay, so address an outsider.
So I'm going to...
Because we should have cards in hand by now, right?
Yeah. So I'm going to give you the cards first.
Okay.
And what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump over to, as soon as you ask a question, I'm going to share a different deck here, which has the questions on it. So we'll always see whatever the current question is up on the board.
I'm going to take question 39.
It's like magic.
So, Linderleaf, what are your top 3 favorite qualities in a potential wizard you'll be paired with?
Well, let me think about that for just a moment. I appreciate a wizard who takes his time and really thinks things through. Too many wizards these days, I think, just jump into any kind of rash decision. I think I could help them really consider their options. 2, I like a wizard that really wants to make a difference in the world. I'm a turtle that's going to really change things, and I need a wizard who will accompany me on this journey. And finally, I like a wizard who has a little bit of fun now and again. Some people think that us turtles are boring, but sometimes I like to party too. And I want a wizard that would like to party with me.
I dare say we do have pretty off the hook parties, if you will, here at the school. What is your favorite type of party activity?
Well, I'm an expert at the limbo game. I tend to just scoot right under there, and other animals just can't keep up.
Now, like for the queen, if nobody has any other clarifying questions, then what I'm going to do at some point is I'm going to pass these next 3 questions, which includes the last 2 that Kurt, you didn't take, and then one other question. I'm going to pass those to the next player. Oh, which is me. But often I'll wait a moment, like if anybody does have a clarifying question, if let's say I started asking the next question and you're like, oh wait, I was going to ask something, just speak up and do that thing. Hello, that's Terminus, correct?
Yes.
On your application here, it says your name is Terminus the Brave.
Very brave.
So what I'd like to ask is, what are you most scared of? I'd like to say that nothing
going
is not
home.
a valid answer.
Going home.
Oh, I'm sorry, going home?
Yes.
And why is that the case?
Well, because I would have failed. I will face any challenge, but to not receive a challenge, how would I explain that?
And if you have received a challenge, but you failed that challenge, how would you handle such a situation?
I do not believe I have entertained an outcome in which I have failed a challenge.
Now, you do know in the world, in the world of our lovely students, they do occasionally not succeed in everything.
Yes, that's why they need me.
Oh, I see. I see. have you ever, let me rephrase that. What is the most recent challenge that you have failed?
I have failed no challenges. I'm Terminus the Brave. I was selected for this.
Council's mumbling. No further question.
Not a question, but I'm sure that lots of note-taking during this question with no eye contact.
This question is, oh wait, I have to send you something. Never mind.
Okay. And also remember, just a reminder, like if I send you those 3 questions, if for any reason you want to X any of them, and again, it doesn't have to be because you have a problem with the question. It could just be like, oh, we've already kind of covered this one, or I want like something else that's not so boring. Just tell me which one you want to X and I'll just send you another one. Okay.
Polly. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in today. The first question we have for you. What do you believe is a necessary evil?
Oh, well, pain. I think pain is a necessary evil. I don't usually feel too much pain, but those few times that I do, I understand it to not be a very pleasant experience. You know, pain is life. Like, if you're living life, and, you know, let's say you're a friend of mine, you know, to be friends is not always easy. And although there are so many advantages, I have so many advantages, you know, sometimes you're going to have to deal with a little bit of pain. And it's just something that I think we can all learn from. Pain helps you grow. Pain helps you know, learn lessons. Like, be careful. That's an important lesson.
Do you think that one can learn lessons without pain?
Maybe. I find that most of the people around me learn lessons because of pain. I think that's a very motivating teacher.
And when your wizard stumbles, tell me about a time you've motivated someone in the past.
Oh, just on the way here, you know, I was here, you know, on my way, and, you know, as I was walking across the forest floor, I met Terminus the Brave. Excellent candidate, by the way. Excellent candidate. You know, very interesting character, and very curious character. And you know, they were there walking with me and asking all sorts of questions and very curious. And you know, I told them that I needed a little bit of personal boundary space. And I don't think they quite got it in the beginning. And, you know, 2 or 3 pokes later, they get it. So I like to teach this lesson all the time. Personal boundaries are very important. I think a lot of students might not understand that. And I think I could help teach that.
They are indeed. Does the rest of the board have any questions? Then thank you, Polly.
Of course. Okay.
This next question is for Noah Underground. Please tell the council, who raised you?
My parents, and my siblings too, and my grandma and my grandfather. We have a very large family for honey badgers. We live in a burrow underground. That's where my last name comes from. But yes, they taught me a lot, I think, about determination and not giving up. And that's what I want to bring to the student that I am assigned to.
Yes, of course. We are aware of the lineage that you come from, and I'm sure you must also be aware of the disgrace that your grandfather brought on this school. So tell me, did your grandfather pass on his aptitude for making a mess of things?
No, sir. My parents, we see him on holidays, and that's all, sort of. No, my parents were very careful to not pass down that part of our family lineage, and I'm focusing a lot more on the good parts. My grandmother, when she was here, helped a lot more students than the one she's actually assigned to, and I'm doing that, or trying to. I want to.
Okay. We'll see about that. That will be all for now.
Thank you. Oh yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
You are aware you are assigned only one student, correct?
Yes, but you can always help more than one, right?
I suppose we don't explicitly have rules against that, but do you know how to take a task and complete it all the way through? What's the most recent example of such a thing?
Well, I think preparing for this interview, really, my mom and dad asked me a lot of questions, and I'd answer to, like, not these questions, of course. I didn't know what they were, but similar things that we thought maybe you would ask. And there was one about my grandfather, but sorry, what was the question?
I believe you've answered it, yes.
Thank you.
Kind of want to ask everyone this, but I'll pick on Terminus the Brave. What is one simple thing that you can't do?
Okay. All right. Can't do things I can't do. Well, I can, and he starts listing. I can run. I can jump. I can hide. I can burrow. I can dig. I can count. I can't fly. Something I would like to rectify, actually. Should I be paired with a sufficient companion, perhaps they would be able to rectify that small shortcoming.
If you were paired with a companion that perhaps rectified this situation, but in doing so gave you wings, would you have a problem with that?
No. Would I get to choose the wings?
Oh, let's say you did not. Maybe you were not able to choose the wings. Would you have a problem with that?
Assuming they were functional, no. But aesthetics are a big part of my life, and I would hope that anyone I was paired with would take my preferences into consideration, of course. But no, I would be satisfied with simply being able to achieve the task of flight.
No further questions.
Thank you. All right. Trinket. I'm sorry. We were allowed to just call you Trinket, correct?
Yes, that's acceptable.
Fine. Trinket, what is the most useless fact you know?
This is a very difficult question because I know many, many useless facts, but I know that the word anadromous means born in freshwater, but maturing in saltwater. And that has absolutely no application to my life, or probably the students either. But I know it. I know lots of things.
Actually, surprisingly enough, that's a lot more useful than you'd think. We do have a number of animals that have these qualities. Where do you learn such knowledge? Being a magpie.
I listen a lot. Birds talk.
Okay, let's see. I'm going to X1 question. In this case, I don't think it applies so well to our scenario. Let me grab another one. Oh, yeah, this one's good. This question is for Linderleaf. Food here is obviously a basic necessity. We have many animals with many different dietary needs, and the students have their own needs as well. So, what kind of things do you eat? And bonus question: what can you cook?
Oh, this is an excellent question for me. I like to eat a lot. I happen to be a vegan. I really only eat leaf-based meals. And so, I'll eat a little bit of grass in the morning to get things going. And then I'll take a nibble at some low-hanging leaves on a bush or something like that. And then I'll just meander my way to the shore of a river where I like to nibble at some cattails and the like. You know, I believe in a raw diet. I think that cooking really only damages the foods, and I think it's best to just eat from nature's bounties, as we say in the Bawksquallow household. So I'm happy to gather some delicious herbs and greenery for the folks here at the school, but I won't be cooking any of it for them.
Now, many of the animals that we have here are meat eaters, you know, cats and other sorts of. Would that be an issue for you? Raw meats being served to, as a vegan, that is?
Well, I get a little bit squeamish when I see some raw meat, but I suppose it shouldn't be too much of an issue. I will, however, try to convert my fellow classmates because I really do believe that green is the way to go.
I kind of like this idea, by the way, that every time the council asks Linderleaf a question, it's like, oh, I think we need to take a short break. And then they ask Linderleaf the question, walk off, and then come back 5 minutes later because it takes like that long to.
Totally. He's still talking. He hasn't noticed. Everyone's left.
I think I'm going to X one. That doesn't quite make sense for
Okay.
our group.
Cool. Hold on a second. Let me just, oops. There we go. I sent you a replacement one. Just make sure that you still want to ask that one that you sent me.
Yep.
Okay. Let me put that one up. All right, you should be good to go.
This question is for Trinket. Trinket, welcome back. We've been interviewing a number of candidates today, and I'm curious, what skills do you have that set you apart from your fellow applicants?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that they're all very good at what they do, but I've noticed that none of them have wings, and I can fly, and none of them can fly, and that sets me apart. It's important to be able to fly in a magical school, I feel.
Very sage nod. Make a note on the paper.
Also, I'm really good at finding things. I have a very keen eye, and I know turtles have many good qualities, but they're not always the best at locating stuff quickly. And I can do that. I can find anything.
What's the thing you're most proud of having found for yourself or for someone else?
Apologies for kitten sounds. She's increasingly mad that I'm not paying attention to her.
We'll have the other applicants brought out.
um, let's see. Once I was looking for some of our winter stores, and I have a very good memory. I never lose anything. But I found next to where some of them had been a stash of marbles, and like not the plain marbles, the ones with the kind of shiny stripe down the middle. They were really, really exciting, and they're mine. And I still know where they are, and I could show you if you want, but you can't have them because they're mine.
I see. And you didn't think perhaps these belonged to someone else?
If they did, they'd come back for them.
I see.
Do you have any problem keeping your hands, keeping your beak away from other people's possessions?
I have a very good memory. I know who put things where, and I wouldn't take something unless it was abandoned. And it's really clear something's abandoned because it's there too long and they don't take it back.
Can you clarify this too long?
No.
Is personal property something that's very important to you? Being able to have things that are just your own. Is that if for instance, if your wizard was to require something of you, would you have an issue turning that over?
I assume my wizard wouldn't make me turn everything over, but sharing's important sometimes. You got a flock in winter. Makes sense. My wizard wouldn't need the marbles, would they?
Oh, you never can tell what a wizard might need.
No, I think
willing
that is a component in a few
my
spells.
marbles.
Especially
Maybe.
the fancy cat's eye marbles, which you mentioned.
If it's important, I could part with maybe 2 marbles.
Thank you for your time.
This question is for Terminus the Brave. Please tell us, what would you say is our greatest weakness or flaw as a community? What can you do about it?
Oh, okay. So your greatest weakness as a community, referring to the school in particular, well, I would say that your greatest weakness is separating the kids. So from what I've heard, you sort of put all of the brave kids in one group, and then you put all of the other kids by themselves. And I just feel that commingling your brave students might help that most valuable of character traits to rub off on the others.
And tell me, Terminus, what do you believe gives you the ability to make a judgment like that?
I'm very brave.
I don't see the connection.
Oh, okay. There was in my burrow a very cowardly young rabbit who would not go out, and they required food to be brought to them, and they never got to eat any daisies. And it was a sad life, you see. And so what I did is I played a little trick on them, and I scared them out of the burrow. But it was fine because everyone was waiting outside, and they saw that when they overcame their fear and ran out into the open, that look, flowers. And everyone was very pleased. And when they stopped crying, they enjoyed the flowers very much.
I see. And would you be playing similar tricks on the students here at our school?
If it was in their best interests, of course. I want to see everyone grow and be stronger, especially my own wizard, which I'm assuming you've already chosen for me, or?
Should you be chosen for the role, you will be assigned a wizard that suits your attributes.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That will be all. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much.
Noah Underground. If you join us, what will you be sad to leave behind?
Well, I think my family, but it's kind of okay because the wizard that I'm assigned to will be my new family, and I'll have a lot of friends here, like the other animals that I'll be helping, like I said before, and I'll see them on holidays. So that's about as much as I see most of my family, the extended family, I mean, anyway. So that won't be a whole lot different. But I think my sister wants to become a familiar too. She's younger, so maybe in 5 years or so. But that means that I wouldn't be leaving her behind at all. If she's accepted, of course, obviously.
We do have a program for alumni that does make it a little bit easier for their siblings to come in. They are given preferential treatment to get to this interview process, but of course they would have to go through the same process.
Yes, I heard a little bit about that because, of course, my parents and my grandfather, who I shouldn't be talking about, but yeah, I really appreciate it, and she'll really appreciate it.
Now, the winter and the spring break are only about 2 weeks in length. Is that, given that knowledge, will you be able to concentrate on your duties, in the interim? I mean, that's not very much time to spend with family and animals that accept this role. I mean, you're sacrificing quite a lot. You will not be able to raise a family or such.
I know. But it's okay that the break is only a week in the spring because I hibernate a little bit, or just not hibernate, like not bears, but sleeping more. So I can make better use of the time when I'm home because I'll be sleeping more here. Is that okay?
Yes. I think you've answered that question very well. Maybe my colleague here. Do you have any further questions?
No further questions, I think. Now, Polly, what would you say is your greatest weakness? And beyond that, why should we accept you in spite of it?
One of the things that I don't think is my strong suit, and okay, yes, I'll say it. It may be my greatest weakness, is that I am not particularly comfortable with being physically intimate with others. And, you know, sometimes a child may need a hug or may need to hold the hand of someone they love. And that's not something I'm very good at, I'm afraid. But I have learned to overcome this shortcoming. I have become very emotionally cognizant. And if someone needs support, I know the words to say and I know how to listen. So although I cannot give that physical intimacy, I think I make up for it quite a bit with, you know, with my emotional intimacy.
You are aware that your quarters will be quite tight with your wizard while staying at the school here. Is that going to be a problem for you? Do you need special accommodations so that we don't have children waking up in the middle of the night pricked?
Oh, how tight exactly? I mean, are you referring to 4 to 5 inches tight, or is it greater than that?
Well, their living quarters are quite small, and often they'll share a.
You put them in cages?
No. But they do share a room, and they have a very small corner of it.
Oh, okay. I should be fine.
All right.
Do they have beds? Yes.
Oh, yes. They have
And
that.
can I get under the bed?
Hmm.
Would you say?
Well, depending on the student, there may be some trunks or something under there, but I suppose you could try to work that out.
This question is for you, Trinket. I know I did notice before the interview that you were flying about and you know, looking at the scene. I believe that was you. What's the most beautiful or remarkable thing you've seen about our community?
You have some towers, and the spikes on top of them are very shiny, but you can't perch on those. They're not very good, but they are nice and shiny. But some of them don't seem to have anything in them really, and like you can still get inside. And those would be great places for nesting. Not that I'm interested in nesting because I'm trying to join this school, but you have lots of good high places, and you can see a lot of things from them, and you don't have any owls, and that's very good in the towers. Owls are fine, I'm sure, but I don't want to live next to one.
There are a few owls in the school, though. You are aware of this, yes? I mean, would you be able to work in the school if there were others also working here?
Yes, as long as they have rooms and things and aren't just sitting in the towers. Owls do that. School owls are one thing. Not school owls sometimes eat magpies, and that's rude.
No, you do know I am an owl, right?
You're a school owl. You wouldn't eat a school magpie, right?
Oh, we never eat any of our fellow co-workers, as it were.
Then that's okay.
Mumble, mumble outside the forest. That's a different matter. Mumble, mumble.
Very suspicious bird stare.
Mr. Linderleaf, I couldn't help but notice your scar as you came in. Would you mind sharing that story with us?
It would be my absolute pleasure. There's quite a tale that goes along with this scar. It all began when I was a young turtle, and I know you all see me now as this example of studiousness at the height of my abilities, but when I was younger, I was a bit of a rough and tumble chap, and the other forest animals didn't quite get along with me. And, they used to pick on me, and I didn't really like that very much. So one day I decided, no more. These animals have to learn a lesson. And unbeknownst to them, I had trained myself in the art of turtle fighting. So one day, a fox came to me and tried to take my lunch away from me, but I fought back. It was quite a scrap, let me tell you. He also knew what he was doing, but he was surprised by the speed of my turtle snap. That's what I call my bite. Anyways, to make a long story short, I really taught that fox a lesson.
See, and can you tell me about a time you used your newfound abilities to help someone else?
Oh, well, that's a very good question. I did, at one point, take a young turtle under my wing. I thought not all turtles should live at the bottom of the food chain. Maybe we could rise up and take our place among the top leaves of the trees. I imagine to myself how delicious those leaves must be. So me and this young turtle, we decided we're going to climb those trees. We will find the delicious sun-baked leaves of the top of the forest canopy. Unfortunately, turtles can't climb very well, and we didn't make it. What was your question again?
I think you've provided a very satisfactory answer.
Oh,
I have to ask, though, there are many ways to get up to the tops of trees. Do you know no birds?
I do know some birds. However, you may have noticed I'm quite a portly chap, and I've never met a bird who could carry me up there.
I see. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I do have a follow-up question there. A big part of your duties, once you're assigned, if you're assigned to a wizard, is problem solving and aiding when out of the box out of the shell thinking and all that. And um, do you feel like you really gave it everything you could to get to the top of that tree? I mean, were there other possible, more creative solutions than simply trying to climb it yourself?
Oh, well, I didn't want to get into the whole kit and caboodle, but let me tell you, we tried. We tried many things. At one point, we tried to build ourselves a tower that could reach all the way to the top of the tree. We tried to create a pulley system so that one of us could pull the other to the top. We even tried to make a hand glider that could take us from the top of a nearby hill and soar to the top of the tree. Suffice it to say, none of these worked out.
Mm. But you survived the hen glider incident. How did that go?
Well, this one scar, the fox scar, is not my only one, let me tell you. There are many others.
Mm. Mm.
Hello, Polly. Yes, this next question will be for you. Please come forward. Could you please tell us about this tattoo that you have? As you know, this is a very serious academic institution. So we're going to have to know a little bit more about the reasoning why you decided to permanently mark your body in that way.
I'm surprised you noticed. It's kind of hidden under some of my spines here, but and I'll open it up so everyone can see. It's an image of a young fox. Actually, you know, it's a little bit abstract. It's hard to get in there, honestly, but it's a memory I had of my childhood and when I was very, very young, and I still didn't know the full strength of my powers. I was accosted in the forest, as you know, many of us can probably empathize with, and you know, I understand animals must eat. That is how it is. You know, there's the food chain and whatnot, but I protected myself as you must, survival and all that. And normally it doesn't do too much harm. I mean, it just, you know, a couple of animals will get a little feel for this and they'll run off and they're done. But this one young fox was very, very curious and just kept trying and trying. And oh, I had a lot of gumption. I'll give her that. But I'm afraid I might have, you know, hurt her too much, inadvertently, of course. And I believe she lost an eye in that exchange, and that made it very hard for her from then on. But we became fast friends. We are friends even to this day, and we got matching tattoos to show that we have both learned, you know, many lessons over the years, and you know, so I understand if this disqualifies me, you let me know, but this is an important part of who I am.
Excellent answer. Thank you, Polly. And as a follow-up, could you please tell us how would you bring these experiences to the academic environment?
Well, so suffice to say, I don't mean to create a rash of tattooing here in the school. Although if there is any desire, I have quite a bit of you know, my needles make excellent tools. But I think it's more the lesson to be learned on how to overcome, you know, those baser instincts, and sometimes, you know, what can start out as a bit of a tussle can turn into a strong friendship, and I'm hoping this is a sign of that.
Very good. Thank you.
I am Xing a card and waiting for a replacement card. I do know it's my turn for once. I am with it.
Replacement given.
I feel like I guessed, while we're waiting, I feel like I guessed correctly today because my coffee mug is...
Terminus the Brave. Why did you just smile right now?
Well, I mean, I'd been trying to get a good look at that tattoo for weeks. I mean, every time I tried to get close, I would get pricked, and I would ask, and Polly would say no, and but you know, I kept at it, but you know, I've still got some of the scars to show, but I was, you know, it's really cute.
If allowed into our institution, would you continue to pry into the other students' personal matters?
Is that not expected? I mean, if I shouldn't, then of course I would follow instructions. I've always assumed that everyone wanted people to know. I mean, what if someone had something that was dangerous they were keeping to themselves, or maybe they were hurting and didn't feel like they could tell anyone, or had a tattoo.
No further questions.
Thank you. And thank you. Wink to Polly. Let's see who hasn't gone in a while. Yeah, there's like a thing. Noah, what would you say do you gain by joining our community?
Well, I'd be continuing a very long and honorable family tradition of being familiars to wizards. But also, I think I'd be gaining a lot of knowledge about the world outside the forest and magic, and I could bring a lot of the experiences that I've had to this world, because the wizard that I'll have hasn't lived in a forest or lived in a burrow or any of the things that I've done, and I could tell them about that, and I think that'd be really helpful. But also, they could teach me things. And I want to learn about all of this because I've heard stories from my grandfather, like used to tell us about on holidays when we saw him once a year, about the things that he did, and it sounded like a lot of fun. And I want to do that too. Not the troublemaking things that you said earlier, but the good parts.
What's one thing that you hope your wizard teaches you?
I mean, we can't learn how to do magic, can we? Because that'd be cool.
I suppose there is a bit of a bond there. Their magic may flow through you, and you pass that back to them. Are you saying that you would want to be more like a wizard?
No, I like being a honey badger.
Whisper, whisper, whisper to the other council member. We can't guarantee that they will blah, 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 blah. Bad to give them the impression that blah, 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 blah.
I'm not magic, though.
Too true. Good answer. Good answer. I love seeing the grumbling from the Assembly of Wizards. It's like one of those like end moments where everyone's all. This question is for Trinket. As you know, magic can be a messy affair, or maybe you don't know this. You know, sometimes students have to learn all sorts of different things, and you need to be accustomed to a variety of experiences. What's the vilest thing you've ever seen?
I've seen a lot of things, but most of them weren't very vile. I need to think for a moment.
Could be a scary thing too.
Puffs.
Magic can be traumatic.
For a magpie that's not very big, like, I'm not scared of very many things. I did once observe a human eating a thing. Believe you call it a potato. They are completely boring. There's nothing shiny about them at all, and they have nothing about them as food. It doesn't wriggle at all. You don't need to stab it with your beak. It is not a food. It's like a rock, but worse, because rocks can be shiny sometimes, and you can throw things at rocks and then they bounce, and that's good. But a potato looks like it would just drop. It was horrible.
And if we possibly, occasionally, had to serve one of these potatoes to our students, could you handle that?
Brave. I've endured it once. I can do it again.
So tell me, you witnessed this human eating a potato, and you say that that was a quite vile act on the part of this human. Did you do anything to try to help this human, or perhaps stop them from eating that potato?
I did. I flew down and I gripped them and dragged over a small shiny wrapped thing, which is much better food. It shines. You can tell that it's better. It crinkled, and they swatted me away. which is very rude, but I can forgive it because clearly they were intent upon eating that potato, and you can't help everyone. They appear to have survived the ordeal, though, and if you serve them regularly, I assume that humans must be capable of eating these things. So it's important to allow people to make their own assessments of risk, and that's not one I would take, but I guess people do sometimes.
Would you?
I came back for the wrapper. It was good.
As would be expected. Tell me, would you be able to trust your wizard's assessment of risk should it seem potato-esque?
I would, of course, have to have faith in my wizard to make good judgments, and I would, of course, offer my opinion should they attempt a potato-esque choice, but would trust their judgment if they thought that it was within their ability to endure.
Takes notes.
Polly, please step forward again. I've heard you have a mantra that you live by. Can you share that with us?
Oh.
And where it came from?
Yes. Well, there's a number that I have, but I suppose the one that you are speaking of is is one poke is an accident. Two pokes is polite. Three pokes says no. I think the mantra you are specifically referring to is three pokes means no.
Can you explain what you mean by that?
Yes, absolutely. So this started as, some people hear me and they think I'm referring to myself or keeping a distance or trying to prevent others from, attacking me or something like that. But no, these are words to live by. If you think about us living all together in a common group in society and having to work with one another, sometimes something is said, something happens. We may accidentally hurt somebody with our words or actions, or even inaction. So, but that sometimes happens inadvertently. We cannot always assume that when somebody says or does something that they mean it maliciously, right? So that first poke, that may be an accident. Sometimes we see a pattern, and maybe that second time is a bit of a warning, like, hey, we need to be careful here. This is maybe there's something that someone is not comfortable saying. And the third poke, I think at that point we understand what's going on here. We are setting a boundary even if we haven't learned how to do so verbally, and that means no. Three pokes means no. So I use this as a way to illustrate to people how to start to learn how to speak with one another. I know that in your care you have many young students, and they may not understand some of these wise lessons that some of us are here to help impart. And I can impart this lesson both verbally and physically.
I see. That makes a lot of sense. But if you were forced to, let's say, 4 or 5 pokes,
Mm.
how would you handle that? If
Well,
someone didn't listen?
yes. I mean, there's two ways that it can be handled. For poke, sometimes that's just malicious. Sometimes you need to look at the poker and see if they are, perhaps, you know, uh, not in themselves doing something harmful. But if there's just somebody who doesn't understand those boundaries, it's time to have a very serious conversation. And I am prepared to do that. Also, my my needles, they you can feel them. So this is something that a lesson that I think they would learn pretty quickly.
All right, thank you. Does the rest of the council have any questions? Thank you, Polly.
Yes.
Now, this question is for Terminus the Brave. Please tell the council, it seems like there's a part of you that doesn't want to join our community. What makes you so hesitant?
Well, I there's I I've left someone behind, and I mean, I wanted to bring them, but they said that that's not how it was done, and so I had to leave them. Um, and and although I understand that me coming here does require that I give up some things. It was one of the bravest acts that I had to take, to leave them. It was very difficult.
And you know that we only take 4 animals every season. And so if we were to accept you into this program, do you think that this would be a compromise to your commitment to this institution?
No, no, I have I've made my choice, and while there may be some nights which I will revisit that decision, I would never go back on it.
Okay. Thank you for your honesty, Terminus.
Yes, of course.
Terminus.
Mhm.
It is okay for companions such as ourselves to have our own private, our private lives. However, is there anything else you'd like to share about that particular situation that may help us make a decision?
Oh, well, uh, I are you saying that that we are still able to have a private life outside of our wizard?
Well, we can. I mean, this is like grumbling and grumbling. What I'm saying is that we can have our own private feelings and thoughts. I
Yeah.
don't know, I don't want to mislead you. Having your own whole private life, I mean, obviously, this is a big commitment here. Most of our time will be serving our wizards, and we share a very intimate bond.
Right, right. I suppose, um, are you familiar with the act of bonding?
You mean like with wizards?
Oh, yes, I suppose it's similar, but I was I had a very, very close friend before leaving. We did everything together, and uh, they were not as fast and strong and brave as I. And when it when we did the final race to see who it was that would be chosen, it was the two of us, neck and neck. And for a moment, I thought perhaps maybe I would maybe I would let them win, but then that would still mean that we would not be together. And so that choice was, I had to be brave. And I realized that even though it would hurt to let my friend go, so I needed to do it anyways, because this is what was expected. This is the thing that I had been working for so long, and that even though I would miss them, that they would also probably miss me. And so either one of us was going to come here, and so it might as well be me.
Know that many of us have also shared in these trials and tribulations, and that is a brave thing that you did, and hard.
Mr. Bawksquallow, people call you by a nickname. What is it? How did you get it?
Oh, why, yes, they do call me by a nickname, don't they? Yes, I came upon the name The Traveler on one of my many journeys across the forest and into the plains and over the hills and through the town that lies on the other side of the hills into another forest over there. There were more hills. I got on a ship. I didn't know where the ship was going, but it just took off, and I happened to be on it. And that's where my journey began. I sailed across the water for I don't even know how long, and arrived in a town that was completely different from everything that I'd known. And, you know, I learned many lessons about the peoples that lived there, and all the wonderful lettuces that they grew and ate. It was a good time. And eventually I got homesick, and I returned. I returned home over the hills and through the forests and into the meadows and back to the town where I came from. And the folk there, they said, "Linderleaf Bawksquallow, you are a traveler now." And they called me that ever since.
When you were in this other place, you said you got homesick. How did you deal with that?
Oh, it was just terrible. I was there at the peak of my life, a healthy turtle, seeing the world, and yet I couldn't get over this feeling. Deep, 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 deep down in the depths of my shell, a voice spoke to me and said, "Linderleaf, this place is wonderful, but it's no home. You need to go back where the people truly know you." And that's why I returned.
And if you were accepted into this program, And 3 months into it, you heard that voice. What then, Mr. Linderleaf?
Well, that voice came from a different turtle. Let's just say I've come a long way and journeyed over many more hills since then, and I can confidently say that I'm ready to settle down.
Trinket, I, I've heard that there is a rumor about you. What is it, and is it true?
It is, but I have a perfectly good explanation. Some of the other birds have noticed me collecting things that aren't shiny and don't even make good sounds when they're dropped. And it's entirely because I've noticed that a lot of people at the school are capable of... Would you go away? Of making marks on things that also aren't shiny and then consulting them later, like how we just remember things, but they write them down, and it's very, very weird. And in my attempt to understand, I was trying to mimic markings and then study them and see if I could figure out what it is that they are doing. And it's not a good pursuit for a magpie, because we are supposed to be finding things that are good and shiny or good for eating and stashing them, because it's important. And these aren't either. I made the unfortunate attempt to see if it is good to actually taste one of these pens, I believe you call them, and they are not. They are very bad tasting. You do not need to try that for yourself. But they do make very interesting marks, and it can be kind of satisfying to draw with them. Although I'm afraid that my foot is not very well adapted for such. But someday I will understand it. Maybe if I go to the school, I will understand it faster.
Indeed, we do have a special program for scribes. Are you familiar with scribes? Have you heard of the word scribes?
I know it has something to do with pens.
Yes.
They have lots of pens, and they hoard them as if they were shiny.
Technically correct.
I know lots of things.
Noah, other than, I suppose we need to look at everyone's character before judging if they are coming here. And so far, you've all done a magnificent job. But if I were to ask you what your biggest regret is in your life, what would you say that is?
Well, I think you're right about judging our own characters and not the characters of, for example, our grandparents. I think my biggest regret would be if I didn't get in. So I studied a lot, and my parents helped me study a lot, and I've been thinking about this for basically my entire life, because it's something that a lot of people did that I knew, like in my family, and it's really important to me. And if I didn't get in, that would be just the worst. So I think I should be let in. I mean,
Did you know that I knew your grandfather?
oh, I didn't.
Hmm. And let me just say and reassure you, not all of us have bad memories of him at all.
Oh, I didn't know that. It seemed like you were not very happy with him, because I know he got kicked out. He didn't tell me that. My sister did, because people talked and she kind of put the pieces together. But that's good. I'm still not him. I'm me.
I can see that. Yes, yes.
A side eye from one of the other wizards towards the owl. It's good to hear that you are your own person. Some of us do carry the line that your grandfather should not have been admitted.
Well, I know you made the decision to kick him out, and that was the right thing to do, because he broke the rules. But I'm glad that he did get in for a little bit. I mean, because then he came back and told us stories about this place, and that meant that one of my parents got in, and that maybe I'll get in. So even if it didn't turn out well for him, I hope it'll turn out well for me, and I can do better, because I have I know there's an example that I know I shouldn't follow.
That's very good to hear. Any other questions?
Polly, you were just telling us how you handled interpersonal issues. Can you please share with us how you recently kept your group safe?
Well, you might assume that it has to do with this, but that would be wrong. I kept them safe by, as you know, getting here is not simple. This school is in a very protected location in the forest. And some of us were journeying together to get here. And we were always looking at at what might encounter us and attack us. you know, like who knows what this forest might contain, magic and magical creatures maybe and whatnot, creepy. But it turns out the what we needed protection of was ourselves. And there was almost a bit of a scuffle that occurred between a lot of us one night. And you know, I think I was able to talk through some of that, and we were able to, you know, come to a peaceful resolution before anybody, before any claws came out. And so I think that's what I did to protect us is, you know, just make sure that we were open and honest with each other.
I see. So you didn't need to poke anyone.
I did not. I consider it a successful day when I have not harmed anyone with any of these needles. That is my goal every day.
I see. Mumble, mumble, mumble.
This question is for Noah. Could you please tell us how is it exactly that you are different from the rest of your group and their questionable past, and why is that?
Well, because I know that my family, you mean, not the other interviewees, right?
Yes, of course.
Because I'm sure they don't have questionable pasts. Well, I think just the fact that I know that there is a questionable past makes me different, because I can, like I was saying before, I can learn from that, and I think just knowing that and growing up with that has made me different and more earnest and determined to succeed.
Do you feel like the people of this school will prejudge you due to that familial relation?
Does everybody know? As long as my my wizard doesn't judge me, I think.
You say you've met your grandfather, yes?
Uh-huh.
I mean, maybe only once or twice or whatnot, once a year. What was your impression of him?
He played a lot of pranks and things, but like people liked them because they knew they were coming, because he always did them. I think he could be a good role model if he tried more. Can I ask, Mr. Owl?
Yes.
Because everybody else says that he caused a lot of trouble and all of that. But what did you like about him?
I also used to cause a lot of trouble.
And now you're on the admissions board. That's
And now I'm on the admissions board. Not all trouble is bad. Trouble helps you learn things. Would you say that there's any truth to that, young
I
Noah?
think it's probably better if you learn from other people making mistakes than you making mistakes. But if I have to get into trouble, no, I'd rather not get into trouble at all. But if I did, I'd learn from it.
Well, I hadn't officially picked that one, but I was going to. So, ha! You read your own message, Tomes.
Oh,
Anyway.
wait, didn't you pick it? Oh, I
No.
wrote to you. Oops. I saw the private message to you, so I thought you wrote that back. My bad.
Anyway, Polly, who do you consider the weakest link in your group?
I will admit that I have my own biases, and my bias is definitely one to those that are, shall we say, more emotionally mature. And so I have to say, I believe Terminus is a bit of an unknown quantity, very, young. Young is the word I would use, but also like I don't know that they know, you know, boundaries as well as maybe they should. I think they may get into trouble with that quite a bit, but I will gladly admit this is my bias, and you know, there's a lot to be learned by making mistakes, and there's a lot to learn when you are young. So I cannot say that this would disqualify them from growing to be a stalwart and even very, very vital part of the community. But if I had to choose a weakest link based on my own experience, I think that would be it.
Thank you, Polly.
Of course.
In light of Polly's words, I motion for a vote.
All right. So when the I motion for a vote card is placed, the interview phase is immediately over. And now we're going to move on to the voting phase. This is fairly short, but I'm just going to do a quick check-in. We've been at it for just over 2 hours. Do we want to take a very short break? Does anyone need like a short bio break or something like that? Like this part of the game is very quick. So we have probably like about, 5 minutes left and then maybe debrief or something, or 10 minutes at the most. Break, yes. I could do it. No, let's continue. All right, so let's continue. Then I will jump over to the voting cards and we'll continue from Kurt. So fellow council members, we've heard enough from these outsiders. It is now time for us to deliberate. The way deliberation will work is each of us will have 1 minute to talk. You can champion or malign any outsiders you wish. You can mention any merits, flaws, or other details that caught your attention or their attention. And anyone can start, so we don't have to go in order here. So as soon as somebody's ready to do the thing, just feel free to step in. And we have all the names in the bottom left there. I don't think they're obfuscated, mostly. What I'm going to do is I'm going to keep track of time on a timer. But all I'm going to do is when you start talking, I'll hit go. And when I've hit the 1 minute mark, I'm just going to put my finger up. So that just tells you that 1 minute is over, and then you can kind of wrap up how you want.
I'm still not sure about this Noah Underground. Their lineage was troublesome. They say that they can get out from under this family proclivity to cause trouble, but I'm not so sure. They seemed quite thrilled at the prospect that perhaps not all, a side-eye at the owl, agreed with his expulsion from this institution. It seems unwise to take such a chance again. I will cede the rest of my time.
9 extra seconds. I think the owl gets up. We've seen some very excellent candidates, I would say. I can't think of any one of them which wouldn't make a great familiar to a student at our school. I do say I am quite pleased that Noah is amongst them. I believe not only is he excellent in his own right, but I think it's important that we do not take his lineage, in any kind of negative way. We should look at him, as all our candidates, purely on their merits, of which I think they are all quite excellent. But I think there's like this very poignant stare, at my other colleague here.
I would tend to agree that this is one of the best batches of candidates we've had yet. I'm very happy to have seen the variety of experience candidates like Trinket and Polly bring to the table, even though they might have some questionable experiences and have clearly gotten into some trouble. I believe that they would all bring something unique to the school. Now, the question of which one of you won't make it certainly is a challenge. We have Terminus, who calls themselves the Brave, but as we've seen, the merits of that claim seem to be brought into question a little bit. And further, we have Noah, the Badger, who comes from a troubled past. And The decision will be difficult, but I'm sure that all of my colleagues here will make a informed decision and choose the candidates that are right for this school.
Yes, I think they were all, with the exception of Mr. Bawksquallow, quite young. I do think that I personally shall be casting a vote to let him in, and I think that is not. I hope my fellow board members will join me in that decision, but the others, they are young and untried, and it will be a difficult decision. And I myself in this moment remain unsure, for I see potential in all of them. But we have done this season after season. And I have faith in our ability to do so again.
I need to know, what kind of animal was that speaking? What do you think?
We're in an actual forest. Deer.
Perhaps the best suited candidate we have today is Mr. Linderleaf Bawksquallow, and yet he's also, as you said, by far the oldest of them. I wonder if that might make it more difficult for him to bond with one of our students. But as you all have said, we have no poor choices this time, and though Terminus is perhaps a bit overeager, and Polly does have a questionable tattoo, I see no disqualifying answers so far from any of our candidates. I'll see it the rest of my time.
Awesome. So one question is, are we going to vote anonymously or openly? Again, normally in meet space, we could just like write on papers and pass them into a person. Yeah, what do you guys think? Openly is a thumbs up. Anonymously is kind of like a thumbs down. And when I say openly, I still mean we can do it simultaneously. So we could all, like if we vote openly, we would all in the chat, for example, write, because remember, we're going to write for who we are rejecting in this case, because we're keeping 4 of the animals, right? So we would write who we're rejecting in the chat, but not hit enter yet until everyone's ready. Then we would see all the results at once, but we would see who we all voted for. Like if we're cool with that, that's like, yay, let's do an open voting. Otherwise, I have like some Google Sheet thing that I had set up for this so we could do it anonymously. And that would be like, no, I don't want people to see each other. What do you guys think? Yes or no? I'm down for. Okay, so then on the next slide, is if we're voting to reject one, each person will write down the name of the rejected outsider. And what we can do is make sure that your chat is set to everyone. So, and then type in the name, but don't hit enter yet. And then we'll do like a 3, 2, 1 countdown. And Oops, the names are a little bit covered up there by the slide, at least for me. So hopefully you can kind of see everyone's name there. Just in case, if not, I'm gonna go back one, just so we can see all the names. And when you're ready, put your thumbs up. I'm ready. It's hard. Oh no. Oh, they're all coming
I
out.
ruined it.
No, it's awesome. Did everyone vote? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have all our votes. All right. Oh, wow.
I accidentally hit enter.
Okay, so we, let's see. All right, cool. So we voted, and it looks like Noah is not getting into the school. There was 2 votes for Noah, 1 vote for Polly, 1 for Terminus, and 1 for Linderleaf. I think Linderleaf, like that was my vote. I think there was in the council there was a fox, and that fox was the one that you had bit in that story.
Whoops.
Oh man, I thought I was the only one who was going to vote against Noah.
Dun, dun, dun.
I feel so bad.
It's so hard to create a
couldn't
throwaway
vote for
vote here.
Terminus. I would have voted for myself. Like, he should not be here yet. He'd go home, come
can't.
back next year.
No, it's too good. So we get to do an epilogue. So this is the very last thing in the game is, each of us, and again, it can be in any order here, gets to tell what we see in the future. And this again could be, it has been days or weeks or longer since the council's made this decision. What happens or has happened to our outsiders? Each of us briefly shares their fate. Anyone may be first.
I think Noah is super disappointed, and then he goes home and probably starts spending a lot more time with his grandfather, because there's that one person who said, yeah, you can, this is a good thing. And I think his sister ends up getting in 5 years down the line.
Oh, that's awesome. Or maybe 4 years down the line and she's the youngest hedgehog, or not hedgehog, honey badger to ever get into school. I love the idea of the grandfather saying something like, let me tell you a story. I think for Polly, we see her moving in the day that she's, they're starting classes, and, there's a little bit of introducing her to her student and all that, but that's all in the background. And then we see her kind of going under, the bed into, the student's oh, I'm going to go to class. Okay, bye. And then she goes under the bed, and there's I think there's a little orb or something, and we can see she kind of does some magic, and she's doing some magic, right? It's what the fuck? And there's someone on the other side, and they're so it's time to start. And she's yes, master.
Oh my god, Polly's a bad guy. So I think Terminus gets paired up with a little shy girl who doesn't want to go to class and is constantly hiding out in their in their room, or kind of has to get drug around. It doesn't really want to go anywhere. And Terminus, thinking that they're doing the right thing, constantly just gets themselves into situations they shouldn't be in or can't get out of, and it forces the little girl to have to follow and help and save them. And so through that, like this little girl learns bravery by having to constantly save her stupid rabbit that won't won't like do anything right.
I think Linderleaf is like that. If any of you went to like post-secondary school with like an old, someone who's like in like much older than everyone else, but they like totally try to like fit in with all of the kids and everything, and like go to all the events and like, just get really into it. And most people are kind of like happy to like entertain that person, but they're never really, a part of the gang or whatever. That's Linderleaf, just trying to live out his school dreams as best that he can.
And I think we get a little image of one of the students focused intently on instructions and like potion cauldron, and it's just not quite working right. And I've already forgotten my character's name. Trinket is kind of perched on the end of it, like hopping back and forth, offering stuff like, put in this and that would work, or we could put in this candy wrapper and that would make it better. And they're maybe not the head of the class, but they are trying very hard, and they will learn something from this utter shit show of whatever it is they're working on at the moment. It explodes in rainbows, probably.
Awesome. And that's the game. That's The Outsiders. Thank you for joining me. So are you guys cool if we do just like, and if anyone needs to go, cool. But are you cool if we do like a short little debrief? And if so, again, do you need a break? You're like, no, we can cool, whatever. Or no, please, let's just no break and just power through it. What do you guys think? I'm cool either way. Okay. Then yeah, I have one or two like specific questions, and but we don't have to do like don't feel pressured to do full debriefy stuff, in the sense that I know Jay put together like a Google form kind of similar to what you did, Kurt, with Lighthearted and stuff. So I can send that over to you if you want to just do any of the feedbacky stuff, or if you want to do any of like I think it comes out anonymous anyway. So if you want to do any like anonymous feedback stuff, that's cool too. But I had 3 specific questions. So one, if you were to describe this game to like friends or family or something, like, is there any specific way you would do that? And maybe that's a weird question to start with. Let me start with this one. Is there anything, what did you especially like about the game? Given you guys are all like gamers that play a shit ton of games.
The format is really easy to, like we've all been in this kind of like question and answer interview type of situation. So just that format, it feels comfortable and it feels like really easy to just keep going. Like I feel like we could have just kept going for much longer, and I wasn't like running out of steam, or like it wasn't too much mental load to be like, oh, what do I need to do next? Like it was pretty simple.
Something I like about this that differs from other For the Queen games is like you said, the format of this interview process. I don't feel any pressure to bring the game to bring the story to a satisfying end. Like in For the Queen, I tend to feel like we're getting kind of halfway through the deck. We should start to like try to tie up some of these loose ends or make some connections here. So when the card comes, we know what's supposed to happen. In this, it feels like we're just exploring everyone's past. Like we're getting that cool backstory from every character, and there's some interplay, but there's never, I never feel like, oh man, we're getting close. We should try to tie this up or get this, thing going. So no, it feels no pressure.
So one of the things that sometimes irks me about For the Queen is that it's possible to get through with very little detail about who anyone is and never having a character name or anything. And this totally flips it, where we had bits coming out about the nature of this quizzing board and the school and the history of the school, but it was really all about these characters, and I like characters a lot more than I like the amorphous queen. That one's also cool, but you know, I'm very social.
And the way I think that having it in this interview format makes us kind of filter our answers or not filter our answers, because we are trying to ideally, ostensibly, present our best selves or our characters' best selves. And who knows who they actually are on the inside. We did get kind of hints of that, I think, just because people kind of let slip things.
Awesome. Yeah, that other thing was, how would you describe, you know, like if you were pitching the game to, you know, and this could be like friends who are not gamers or whatever, or a gaming group, like what kind of thing would you concentrate on in the pitch? Like, how would you describe this game?
It's high stakes interviewing the game, but it's actually fun. I swear, stop walking away. I'm not totally sure how I would summarize it, so it sounds rad.
I think I would focus on the stakes, right? Like the I mean, so if I had to pitch this, you know, I'd probably open up with, you get to play a group of people trying to get into a community that for some reason there's enough resistance that they actually have to interview to get in, and there's a chance that everyone might not make it. So there's like, there could be backstabbing, or you could decide to just, no, all or none of us. And you get these really rich backstories of these characters. So do you want to sit down, or?
I'm not sure, but I think that I think if I were doing it, I might downplay the interview aspect, or like the word interview, because it has a really negative connotation in, right? Like if you told me like, we're going to play a role-playing game that's an interview, I would immediately be like, I don't know how I feel about that, honestly. So that would probably be my one feedback, is that maybe there's like a better word or a better way to frame it that doesn't, you know, because it's not really, it doesn't have to be an interview, I guess. It's kind of like one group talking to another group, right? We played it really like one person. It was really like one-on-one, and the group dynamic didn't play into it, which is maybe another thing to talk about. But I think the group dynamic probably plays out stronger in other games.
Yeah, if I like telling someone about the game that we played, I would definitely use the word interview, which there's got to be something better. Have other games that you guys have, or that you've played, been so structured like that?
It's like, I think a lot of them do end up feeling like you are being interviewed in a way, and like I think that word would slip out. Like I think that's fair, because like it's always the council, which is all of you guys. Like, yeah, there's one question that comes out, but there are other people there who do the clarifying stuff. So it always kind of feels like you are there answering this group, and not so much are as a group to group relationship. Like you don't, I don't get that impression most of the games I've played. But I have played very different tones. Like some were super silly, like we're a motorcycle gang trying to get into ballet school. That was like one of the play tests, right? And it was just like straight up gonzo silliness. And it was hilarious, but it was like, this was not a serious game by any means, right? But then we also played one where it was like, oh, an asteroid is known to come and it's gonna hit the Earth, and like this one walled city is probably gonna be protected, and we are trying to get in, like we're interviewing to get in, and they're gonna choose everyone but one, right? And with the motorcycle gang, it was like all or nothing, right? Like I think there's that combination of stuff where it's like the all or nothing thing, or whether one gets in or all of us but one gets in, kind of sets how competitive the game is. And then that tone also, and the premise more importantly, but like the tone reinforces that, make sure we're calling on the same page as far as like how serious it is. But I mean, to answer, like, I think it always, that game with the motorcycle and the ballet school, because we had such different characterizations, right? Like when you were the motorcycle, gang, you kind of spoke very differently from the more haughty sounding, ballet school, right? And so because we had, like, each of us had a bit of a character difference there, like we found that we were interacting sometimes as like, like let's say Kurt's asking me a question, maybe you, Sarah, might actually interact more as one of my colleagues, like as in the motorcycle gang versus like in the ballets. Like people would chime up in one or the other more readily. Whereas in most games, I find people are usually like, oh, it's the council and one of us, always. Like that happens more frequently than not. But there's nothing in the rules that say that has to happen, right? One thing I noticed in our very late interaction between you and me, Sarah, like in one of the questions, was that you asked me a question as like you were the interviewer, you were Noah, right? And you were asking me about something about my grandfather. So you kind of like turned the question on me as the counsel, right? And again, the game doesn't really say you can't do that, but I don't know if, will people feel comfortable doing it or not or whatever. Like, I think if there was like a longer form version of the rules, like a little booklet or something, like with frequently asked questions and shit like that, like we might say like, or like examples of play, right? We might bring that up. Like, you could do this. There's nothing inherently wrong with that.
I just keep thinking of like good interview techniques, and you want to be interviewing the person who is interviewing you too, to find out if it's the best fit, actually.
Totally, right? Like imagine if you started out the gate like that, like suddenly the questions would be like very back and forth. Like, it could be a very different dynamic. I guess I have a question about that. Well, does anybody have any other comment about how you would describe it? I don't want to.
I guess instead of interview, you could refer to it as a group making their case for why they should be part of this community.
Right.
But it never, in the 2 times I've played it, it has not felt like the characters are making their case. It has felt like the interviewee trying to like answer the questions in the way they think they want them to be answered, rather than saying, yeah, okay, cool, your question, whatever, but like I need to be in there and here's why. Which may change if it's, well, we die if we don't get in the city. Like, I don't care what you think. Like, yeah, sure, I'll do whatever you want, but like I need to be in there.
Right.
Might change depending on the stakes. Like our stakes were kind of low, I think.
Yeah. And Kurt's game was another really fun one where it was like they were all monsters trying to get into an adventurers guild. And so you have like this group of like a troll and a this and a that and a whatever, and like they're over there at the human in Elf City or whatever trying to work their way in. Okay. Another thing I guess I want to ask is, given that conversation we just had about like the fact that, do the questions only go one way, or, when we're all questioning, let's say Ben's character, like, can we also chime in as the other outsiders, right? Like, do you think that should be made different in the game, like either more explicitly mentioned? Do you think that there should be mechanics around it? Like one option was that I know Jay was considering was like, should she give everyone tokens that they could use to then, be an outsider making some question, or, like that kind of stuff? Like, what do you guys think?
I don't think I'd want to add more mechanical weight to it, because one of the things I like about it is that the game kind of gets out of the way and lets you play it away. but some note about how it's fine to respond with the, well, you realize that I am an owl, and your statement seems a little unnecessarily targeted. It's something I hadn't considered doing that was fun, and I probably should have realized that I'm allowed to just bullshit from the start, especially because it's a Tomes game at the moment. But, yeah.
Yeah, or like there were moments where people were saying things about the other participants who may or may not have been in the room at the same time. And we just kind of sat there and like, yep, took it.
It never even occurred to me to ask a follow-up question as one of the outsiders. Like to jump in as Terminus and be like, yeah, but you did this thing. What do you think that would help? Like, it never occurred to me to do that. But would be like that would be an interesting way and would definitely change the dynamic if we were all it would establish we're all just standing here. Why are you just asking them this one question?
Well, it's the format. Like you wouldn't do this in a real interview. You wouldn't just throw yourself into the middle of things because that like makes you look real bad.
I mean,
Yeah,
I
I think
have a
like
baby rabbit.
I think based on the choice you make at the start of like what the scenario is, it could make sense or not. Like it just didn't make sense for us for people to jump in because like it's a formal interview. There's a process. You don't just start talking, that kind of thing, right? But in the biker example, I'm guessing it would make sense that all the bikers are in the room together and they can throw in. So I think that's tough. That's just a challenge with the design that you're going for, where it's like things can be pretty different. So you have to kind of be a little bit more general, I think.
Cool. Awesome. No, thanks. That's great. And again, this is all, we're still recording, so Jay gets to listen to all this stuff. Anything else? Oh, I do want to ask what's the best email to use to send that the Google form if you're open to that. And obviously, like, yeah, just send me a DM or something, and I'll pass that over to Jay if you're comfortable with that. And then, yeah, if you have any other feedback stuff you want to like mention now, that's fine too. Positive or negative, like whether that's like roses and thorns stuff or, suggestions or thoughts on how, you would want something to, possibly changed, or even if you wouldn't want it mechanically changed, how you could see yourself maybe changing something in a home game because you'd want to try to do something different or whatever. But I'll open the floor.
Okay.
So it says in one of the first slides that the council isn't really, you're not embodying any one member of the council. They're just kind of an amorphous group. And I feel like that immediately got tossed out because, first off, Tomes is going to go, but I'm an owl. How do you feel about me? And also because it's us and story game bullshit. So I'd probably scratch out that line on my copy of it. Come on, guys. We all know that if you want to say, but I am your grandfather interviewing you for this role, you're allowed to do that because that's the kind of nonsense I'm in for.
Right. Do you think that, so one of the intentions behind that is just that, one, we were, I think, originally worried about that, split brain of you're playing two characters. So we didn't want you to write a name card for an outsider and a name card for a council member, for example, because that would maybe be a little bit harder to track or whatever.
Yeah. I'd don't feel like you need to be playing any one character, but sort of in Worldwide Wrestling Commentator thing, you can just announce, okay, whatever, I'm being a heel commentator now. Or you're going, I am being a heel interviewer. I'm going to give you the hard-hitting questions and demand to know why rabbits belong here.
Cool.
No, I agree. I think last time I played, we didn't have specific interviewers. We didn't really develop, but we did sort of, I think both times I've developed like this is the sort of thing that my interviewer would care about. And so I guess technically I did have, right? Because I kind of went down a line of questioning that sort of stuck together. Like it wasn't I jumping around randomly to different things. I always sort of brought it back to like what I think should be important to get into this school, which turns into what my interviewer thinks is important to get into this school, or whatever, right? Whichever community it is. That might be a shortcoming of me, though.
Cool. And yeah, it's interesting. I like with Ryan, your comment, like I definitely think like in many of the games, like the council has been somewhat amorphous, but there have been people who've brought up like characterizations or certain characters that they bring up, and they may or may not play them every time. And I think that's kind of the intention of that line, but we'll take an eye to it and see to make sure it doesn't feel like it's, I wouldn't want it to hamstring somebody to feel like they can't, play into like the way we did, right?
I do agree. I do agree though that it shouldn't be like you need a specific character, right? Because if I was writing down a name for my council member, because it feels like the game is not about the council, right? It shouldn't be about the council. It might be about the council's relationship to the specific person being interviewed, right, but not about the council. Like we're not going to find out backstory about them usually, I don't think.
Unless somebody has a comment for that other thing, just one other thing about game length. Like, did you feel like, and I know, Ben, you kind of touched on this, but like, we basically have about, let's say 40, there's just over 40 cards of these questions. I stuck that final, I motioned for a vote in the middle. And we ended up playing like basically just over a 2-hour game. That I motioned for, well, we had like 5 X cards. So 5 questions got X'd. I know we're also story game bullshitters, so we're gonna go on and on a little bit longer than maybe some games. And then also that I motioned for a vote card actually got into, it was right after my hand. I think I was the first one who had it. So it went through 1, 2, 3, well, 4 people with me. So 4 people before Kurt, you actually played it. So, I mean, it could have been played earlier in theory, but not much earlier.
It wasn't in my hand, but it wasn't Kurt's hand?
It was in my hand.
I think it was in your hand.
I X'd a card and then I got it as my replacement.
Yeah, I didn't have it.
Oh, wait, maybe I'm wrong.
I definitely had it.
Yeah, wait. No. So Kurt, you X'd a card and got it.
I did have it, and I immediately scratched it out in my mind and forgot about it.
So sorry, I wasn't the first one with it. Kurt, you had it first because you X'd a card. Mm-hmm. Then you didn't play it, I didn't play it, and it went through the whole line until it went back to you. Yeah. So one thing, I'll say that I like about it, but I'm interested to hear your opinions, is that it lets you guys control the pace at a certain point, right? Like once we get to that middle point, like we could play longer if people are interested because you just don't have to play it, right? But as soon as someone's like either waning or just feels like this is a good place to end, maybe this is like the right, that's such a good moment, you can play that card, right? So did you feel like the pace was right for this kind of game? Like, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I feel like for something as unstructured as this, like we were just going from one thing to the next and they were usually pretty unconnected to each other, this felt like an appropriate length. If there were more of a through line, I might have felt better about going longer because it would have been something to build on properly. But for what it was, yeah, okay. 2 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, time-wise, it felt good to me.
Okay.
I mean, I'm the one who called for a vote, but
I probably, like, if it had come to me next, I probably would have done it as well.
I do like how it lets you go, but not right now, and put off the vote for a smidge, or go, yes, finally, time for voting. I'm done.
Yeah.
But like I said in the chat, I definitely, when I saw it, immediately thought, but what if I X this card? Would Tomes tell me I broke the game? And then instead I asked a question.
You would have broken the game. But I think like for the queen, you could do that too, right? Like the queen's under attack, no X, which you totally could do, right? I don't really know what happens there. I mean, you could do it. Like I can see a kid doing it to be like, I actually don't want the queen to be under attack, right? Or like somebody who's like not interested in that ending scenario. And you could maybe exit and then just come up with a different ending or play forever, like Ben said.
Yeah, you just keep shuffling the deck until you've X'd every card.
Oh my God, it's a horror game, the never-ending interview. Cool. Yeah, anything else?
I have a question for you. Is there something that you and Jay are hoping that the game will do that you haven't seen it do yet?
I've actually been very pleasantly surprised by it so far because, like I said, we've had very different tonal games. I like the mix of competition versus cooperative elements. Like I've had people like that wolf one. We were very much like I think Noella had just come back from work. You know, they just got a new job where it was like, you know, working at a dog shelter. So like that whole wolf premise was like very much kind of like I like that the premise is something that you're invested and interested in as a group. That's very important, I think, to the replayability. And like in our case for that game, like they were very much like, oh, all or nothing. And I think it hit the mood, like it definitely set us suddenly that we're all kind of on the same team, even though we were playing a game where like we would sometimes self-sabotage or do other things like that. So like on that, to answer that part of the question, like I feel like it's doing, like it's able to hit lots of different tones and table moods. I think that the part that we struggled with is a little bit of this stuff that we've talked about, which is like, you know, how much flexibility do you want to give people within the rules? Like, do I want them to know that they can ask questions as outsiders or council people, you know, both or something? Like if you make it too much explicit, then you're kind of changing the dynamics and tone, and maybe in a way that like was said, you know, the game kind of is about the outsiders. It's not really about the people in the council so much, even though that's so integral to the story, right? So like how much, and like I'm also very much of the opinion, like I would like the rules to be very slim and clean as possible. So adding more mechanics is definitely something that I'm very wary of, right? And Jay as well. You know, she's very into like very loose, simple story games. So I don't know if that kind of answers the question. Like yeah. I feel like it does most of what we want. I think one of the main things was if we put this in front of somebody, like that rule set, and I don't mean this weird online bullshit with the cards that we were doing, but like if I gave you these cards in your hand and, you know, you were playing it with friends, like, do you feel like there's anything that should be made more clear, or is it kind of like it does most of the work?
I don't feel like there's anything that was unclear to me about how it works. Maybe stuff we didn't think of doing, but
It's. Oh, go ahead.
No. After.
I was just going to say I feel like I have trouble answering because I've played For the Queen so many times, and the rules felt a little bit cleaner than the first time we played.
Yeah.
Like maybe there's been some edits.
Oh, there's definitely been some edits.
Yeah. So I think I could put this in front of people and they would be able to figure it out.
Okay. One last question, which is ties. Like, let's say we voted and we tied. How would you want that to be handled?
Fight to the death.
In this case, probably, well, this is unprecedented. And then argue about having entering all 5 or something, or do we need to like revote? I would have expected some academic chaos in this setting. Otherwise, fight to the death is always my favorite one. Basement knife fights. Let's go.
Mm-hmm.
There's these 5 animals in a basement. They just throw down 5 knives.
4 knives.
Okay. I definitely did, like, one thing that I considered was if there's a tie, then narratively we come up with some, like, what that means. Just like if there's an upset, or like, how does that change the scenario? Like, in other words, you just make it a narrative thing, not a mechanical thing.
Or like in this case, if everyone had voted for a different person.
Yeah. Could have happened, right?
That's, yeah. I could see it being interesting.
We don't accept anyone. We do this over.
Yeah, we start over. We have to play again, guys. I'm really sorry. We'd like to call you all back for a second interview. This one will be with a manager. So you got Kim from HR is here now.
We're going to ask all of the same questions. So
Yeah.
We're just about to kill it, but yeah.
Call your references.
Oh yeah, here.
Hi guys.
Hello.
Hello.
Just want to thank everybody for playing.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Awesome. And I don't want to take too much of your time real quick, but was there any like big issue that came up that you know? No. That's the purpose, is to break the game. No, but I was curious if there was something big that you guys kind of bumped into.
I don't think so, but
Yeah, was there something, like I heard something about a tie?
oh yeah.
Oh, because to me, like the point is that you guys just have a good story.
Yeah.
And
the end card could still be
yeah.
what becomes of us, and you figure out
Right.
whatever that is. Like,
awesome.
But maybe it should say something on the card about if there's a tie, come up with a reason or something, so people don't go like, oh.
What do you do? And not to get stuck on that. Awesome. Well, you know what? I'll just look at the recording and then you can just debrief me and all that stuff. But thank you, everybody. I'm going to go feed the kid.
Right. Well, I'll let you guys all go, and I can't fucking wait to see you in like less than 2 weeks.
Oh my
Yeah,
God. So
totally.
excited.
It's coming up.
Awesome. Thanks,
All
everybody.
right, kids.
All
Thanks so
right.
much. Oh, I
See you
should stop the
guys.
recording.
Bye.
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 Bye, everybody.
Bye.